Hello everyone, I am Utsav Basu and in today's lecture we will be covering the basics of reflection and refraction of light. So let's get started for today. First, let us look into the reflection of light. Before we go into the details about mirrors, we have to know some basic definitions. So the first one among them is the incident ray. The incident ray is the light ray hitting the reflecting surface. Here we can see in this diagram that this is the incident ray because this is coming and hitting this mirror. The next is the reflected ray, which is the light ray getting reflected from the reflecting surface. So here we can see that the incident ray is incident on the mirror at this point and getting reflected via this path. This ray is known as the reflected ray. Then there is the normal. The normal is defined as the perpendicular to the reflecting surface at the point of incidence. As we can see, this normal is at an angle of 90 degrees with the mirror. Then there are two angles, very important, the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. The angle of incidence is the angle made by the incident ray with the normal, and the angle of reflection is the angle made by the reflected ray with the normal. Now let us come into the laws of reflection. There are basically two laws. The first is that the incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray must be coplanar. The second is that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Always these two laws hold true. That is, the I will be equal to R. Now before we go into the discussion of the mirrors, first we have to know what is a real image and what is a virtual image. There are various definitions, but I have selected some key points to keep in mind. The best way to learn about real and virtual images is via a difference. So a real image is one that can be formed on a screen and the virtual image is one which cannot be formed on a screen. So this is the loose definition, the layman's definition. For a more technical definition, we can say that for a real image, the reflected or refracted rays converge at a point to produce a real image, while for a virtual image, the reflected or refracted rays diverge from a point to produce a virtual image. Now, to get examples, let us go to the next slide. We will come into the details of the concave, convex lenses and mirrors, but I just want you to note this fact that here we can see that this is a reflected ray and this is another reflected ray. These two actually converge at a point to form a real image. The same holds for here. Here is a refracted ray and here is another refracted ray. Both of them converge at this point to form a real image. However, for this virtual image, we can see that this is first reflected ray, this is the second reflected ray. They do not actually meet at some point, but if we extend them, then they meet at some virtual point, forming the virtual image. The same goes for this. Here the refracted rays goes like this and this. However, if we extend them on the opposite side, we get a point where the virtual image forms. So now that we have known what are virtual and real images, we can come into discussion of plane mirrors. Now a plane mirror is a very simple concept. The main points about the images formed by plane mirrors is that the image distance is always equal to the object distance. As we can see in this diagram, this distance is equal to this distance. The image formed is virtual. For all real objects, the image formed by a plane mirror is always virtual, and the image is formed is of the same size as that of the object. So if this height is h, then the object height is also h. Both of the sizes are same. Now let us come to the discussion of spherical mirrors. As the name suggests, spherical mirrors are parts of spheres, as if the mirror is cut off from a larger sphere. We will be looking into two of their kinds, convex mirrors and concave mirrors. As I have shown in this diagram, we can see that the spherical mirrors are part of spheres. It only depends on which side of their face is silvered. This is a concave mirror and this is a convex mirror. Now before we go into the details of the image formations of concave and convex mirrors, there are 4 rules which help us to find the images formed by them easily. I'll come to the visual description of what happens and how these are valid, but for now just keep them in the back of your mind. So the first rule is that after reflection, a ray of light parallel to the principal axis passes through or appears to be coming from focus. Now the underlined part holds for concave mirrors, while the bracketed parts hold for convex mirror, as I have shown here. Okay. Second, when a ray of light passes through or appears to pass through the center of curvature, it gets reflected back along the same path. When a ray of light passes through or appears to pass through the focus, it becomes parallel to the principal axis after reflection. And fourth, the ray of light which is incident at the pole is reflected back, making the same angle with the principal axis. Now, keeping these rules at the back of our minds, let us see how the images are formed. First, the image formation by a concave mirror. Here is the visual description of how the images are formed. I have a table describing everything in the second slide, but first let me show you how it is done via this picture. If the object is at infinity, then the image that is formed at the focus. When the object is between infinity and the center of curvature, the image is formed between the center of curvature and the focus. When the object is at the center of curvature, the image is also formed at the center of curvature. When the object is between the center of curvature and the focus, then the image is formed between the center of curvature and infinity. When the object is at focus, the image formed is at infinity. And lastly, when the object is between the focus and the pole of the mirror, then the image formed is virtual and at the back of the mirror. Now you can easily see that the 4 rules that I have shown in the previous slide are depicted here quite nicely. Here is a table with all that I have said is written nicely, and also here we have the nature and size of the images that are formed in the respective cases. Now let us come into the image formation by convex mirrors. In the first case, we can see that when the object is between the infinity and the pole, the image is formed between the focus and the pole. The image is virtual, smaller and all that. In the second case, when the object is at infinity, then the image is formed at the focus. In both the cases, the key note is that in both the cases, the image is virtual and it is positioned behind the mirror. It is positioned always behind the mirror. Now, before I tell you about the mirror formula, we need to know the sign convention. The sign convention is same as we learned for mathematics. Towards the positive x, it's positive, towards the negative x is negative, towards the positive y, it's positive, and towards the negative y, it's negative. The same thing applies here also. We have to keep this in mind to actually apply the mirror formula effectively. Here is the mirror formula: 1 by f equals to 1 by u plus 1 by v. F is the focal length, u is the object distance, and v is the image distance. Now this note is very important. Always, I repeat, always apply the formula keeping the sign convention in mind. If you do not keep the sign convention or use the sign convention, then the answers you will get will be wrong. Next is the magnification of mirrors. The magnification m is defined as the height of image by the height of object, hi by ho. For mirrors, it is minus v by u. If the absolute value of m is greater than 1, then the image is enlarged, and if the absolute value of m is less than 1, then the image is diminished. If m is positive, then the image is erect and virtual. If m is negative, then the image is inverted and real. Again, while applying the formula for m, this minus v by u, always keep the sign convention in mind. Otherwise, the magnification you will get will be the opposite of what it should be. Now let us come into the refraction of light. As in the case of reflection, we again have some basic definitions which we have to keep in mind. The first one is the incident ray. The incident ray is defined as the light ray which is incident on the boundary of the two media. As we can see, this is the incident ray and it is incident here at the boundary of the two media, this and this. Then we have the refracted ray. The refracted ray is the light refracted through the boundary. So as we can see, the incident ray is coming, hitting the boundary at this point, and then it is bending and going into the medium as the refracted ray. The normal, as again, the normal is defined as the perpendicular to the boundary of the two media at the point of incidence. This is always 90 degrees. Then we have the two angles, the angles of incidence and angle of refraction. Angle of incidence is defined as the angle between the incident ray and the normal, and the angle of refraction is defined as the angle between the refracted ray and the normal. Before going into further details, first let us understand a very interesting phenomena that happens because of refraction, that is the total internal reflection and the critical angle. I have given a lot of details here, but let me just explain to you in a shorter way. So as we can see in this diagram, this is a light ray going from a denser medium to a rarer medium. Now when it does so, a part of light is reflected back via the path OB and a part is refracted along the path OC. Now if we increase the angle I to a certain value C, we will see that the refracted ray increases the boundary of the two surfaces, making an angle 90 degrees with the normal. This angle at which the angle of refraction becomes 90 degrees is known as the critical angle. And if we increase angle I beyond C, then we can see that this ray has nowhere else to go, because it has come, it was here, it has come here to be 90 degrees. Now where will it go? Now what will happen is that it will go inside the medium and be totally reflected. Thus here total internal reflection is happening. This phenomena is known as total internal reflection. If the incidence angle is greater than the critical angle, then we will see that the incident ray is getting reflected via the boundary of the two medium. This is the same thing that is written in this part. Just go through it once. Then we have the refractive index. Now there are two kinds of refractive index. The first is the absolute refractive index, which is defined by mu equals to C by V1. C is the speed of light in vacuum and V1 is the speed of light in the medium. The second kind of refractive index is the relative refractive index, which is defined for a pair of media, mu1, 2. This is defined as mu1 by mu2 or equivalently V2 by V1, where mu1 and mu2 are absolute refractive index of medium 1 and 2, while V1 and V2 are the speed of light in medium 1 and 2. Now let us come into the laws of refraction. The first law is that the incident ray, the refracted ray and the normal to the boundary are always coplanar. This always holds. And the second most important law of refraction is that the sine of angle I divided by the sine of angle R is equal to a constant, which also happens to be the refractive index of the medium. This is known as Snell's law. This is a very important law in optics. Mu is known as the refractive index of the medium if the ray is incident from the vacuum. That is, let us go to the previous diagram. Here we can see if the incident ray is from vacuum, and this is the medium mu, then the sine of angle I by the sine of angle R is the refractive index of this pair of media. And since it is vacuum here, therefore it is the refractive index of this medium. Then let us come back. Yeah. Also, one more thing we need to note here is that from the Snell's law we get another expression for the refractive index of a medium, which is defined as mu equals to 1 by sine of theta c. If theta c is the critical angle of the medium, then the refractive index of the medium can be easily found out by inverting the sign of that angle. Now let us come into spherical lenses. A lens is a transmissive optical device that focuses or disperses light by means of refraction. As the name suggests, spherical lenses have at least one side in the shape of a part of a sphere. As you can see in this diagram, this is a convex lens, this is a concave lens, and we can see that even if the two sides do not have the same radius of curvature, since both of them are parts of spheres, both of them will be classified as spherical lenses. Again, as was the case with mirrors, we have some easy rules to help us form the images using lenses quite easily. The first one is that an incident ray which is parallel to the optical axis after refraction passes or appears to pass through the image focus of the lens. Now I will come into the visual descriptions of this when we will go into the image formation by the lenses, and I will also tell you what the image focus is. Just keep them in the back of your mind for now. Second is the incident ray which passes or appears to pass through the object focus of the lens is refracted parallel to the optical axis. And the third one is that the incident ray which passes through the optical center of the lens is not refracted at all. Let us keep these rules at the back of our minds and proceed to the next section. Image formation by convex lens. Now before I go into the image formation, let me tell you what the image and object focus is. If we keep an object at infinity, then its image would be formed at some focus of the lens. Now the focus where the image forms is the image focus, which is here represented by f2. And as in this case, if we keep an object at a focus, then its image will be formed at infinity. Now this focus is known as the object focus. The two types of foci are at the opposite sides of a lens. So if one of them is the image focus, then the other would be the object focus. Now when we are solving problems for convex and concave lenses, then the focal length that is supplied to us is always the focal length for the image focus. So whenever you will substitute the values in the lens formula, always remember that you need to take the focal length with respect to the image focus. Now let us see how the images are formed. Since the object is an infinity, the rays are parallel and they converge at the focus, the image focus. Here, if the object is between infinity and 2f, then the image is formed at f and 2f. If the object is at 2f, then the image is formed at 2f. If the object is between 2f and f, then the image would be between 2f and infinity. If the object is at f, then the image would be at infinity. And the special case, when the object is between f and the optical center, then the image would be virtual and enlarged. The next page, we have the details given in the form of a nice table, which you can pause and see. The same thing which I have described in the previous slide is written here in a nice way. Now let us come into the image formation by concave lenses. If the object is at infinity, then the image formed is at the focus. Now we saw that in convex lenses, the image focus was at the right hand side of the lens. However, in case of concave lenses, the image focus is at the left hand side of the lens, and correspondingly the object focus is at the right hand side of the lens. So this is the image focus and this is the object focus. Now in the second case, if the object is between the optical center and infinity, then the image formed is virtual obviously, but between the optical center and the focus. Now let us come into the lens formula. Now for applying the lens formula, the same sign convention that we have learnt in the mirrors will hold. The same sign convention holds. X-axis positive is positive, x-axis negative is negative, x-axis positive is positive, x-axis negative is negative, y-axis positive is positive, and then y-axis negative is negative. Just keep them in mind. So f is the focal length and take sign with respect to the image focus. As I have told you already, the focal length that you need to substitute into this lens formula should always be of the image focus. U is the object distance, V is the image distance, and note that the sign convention is a must and you have to apply it to get the correct answer. In the magnification, here again the magnification is defined as the height of image by height of object, hi by ho, but in this case there is no minus sign, so it's just v by u. The same things are here also. If absolute value of m is greater than 1, then it is enlarged. If less than 1, image is diminished. Positive, it is erect and virtual. Negative, it is inverted and real. Yet again, to get the correct value of magnification, you have to use the sign convention while substituting the values of v and u. Now before we go into the problems, let us learn about a fun principle known as the principle of reversibility of light. According to the principle of reversibility of light, if the path of light is reversed after suffering a number of reflections and refractions, then it retraces its path. In simpler words, we can say that if we place the object at the position of the image in an optical setup, then the new image that is formed is at the position of the original object. That is, we can say, if we switch the object and image positions and also the direction of arrows, the same ray diagram holds for the system and the system will be consistent. Let us go to the image formation by the concave mirrors to have a first hand experience in this. If you look into cases B and D, you will see that if the object is beyond C, then the image is between C and F, right? And in case D, you see, if the object is between C and F, then the image is beyond C. These two cases are just the opposites of each other. And if you just take the mirror images of these two with respect to a mirror like this, then you will see that these two cases are exactly identical with the object and image positions swapped and the direction of the light reversed. This is a very important principle that applies to all kinds of optical setup, and believe me, this will help you a lot to solve a lot of questions. Now let us come into a few questions and then we'll conclude our lesson. So the first question is, a point object P moves along a concave mirror with a constant speed v along its optical axis. The speed of the image is always less than v, greater than v, increases as p comes closer or decreases as p comes closer. Now the correct answer is C, that is, it increases as p comes closer. Now you might think that you may need some complex differentiation and calculus and everything, but no, it can be easily visualized by seeing the ray diagrams. Now we again come here. Now see this very carefully. When the object goes from infinity to C, the image only comes from F to C. Alright. So by the time the object comes from infinity to C, the image only goes from F to C. However, when the object goes from C to F, then the image goes from C to infinity very fast. From here only we can get a very clear intuition that the speed of the image actually increases as the object comes closer. So without even doing any complicated calculations with calculus and everything, we can easily determine the speed of the image increases as the object comes closer by just remembering the ray diagrams. Now let us take a second problem. Here it is said that a square wire of side 3 is placed 25 cm in front of a concave mirror of focal length 10 with its center on the axis of the mirror and its plane normal to the axis. The area enclosed by the image of the wire is. Now I have done this calculation here. F is given to be minus 10, U is minus 25, V we don't know, HI we don't know, HO is given to be 3 cm, AI we don't know, and AO is given to be 3 cm square, that is 9 cm square. A, I and AO are the area of the square wire of the image and object respectively. Now if we apply the mirror formula, we will get V equal to minus 50 by 3. Now take the magnification, it is minus 2 by 3. The HI by HO is minus 2 by 3 and we get that HI is equal to minus 2. Now just find the area by HI square and you get 4 cm square. This was an easy problem by just the direct application of mirror formula. This is our last problem, and here we will actually use the principle of reversibility of light to determine the answer. Now let us look into the question. A screen is placed 90 cm from an object. The image is formed on the screen by a convex lens at two different locations separated by 20 cm. Determine the focal length of the lens. Now for now, let us forget this lens. I have just taken P1, P2 as two positions of the lens as it was told in the question. In the first case, we see, suppose the distance between the object, this is the object, and the lens is D, and the other distance is 20 plus S. 20 because that it has told that the difference between the two locations is 20, and I have taken an extra length S. Now by the principle of reversibility of light, if we switch the object and the screen, then what will we have? It will be the same as if we have placed the lens at P2, because see, if we place the screen here and the object here and take this lens as the reference, then it will be the same as if we have kept the object here, the lens here and the screen here. So from here, and by using the principle of reversibility of light, we can easily deduce that D equals to S. Now once we do that, the whole problem becomes just a direct application of the lens formula. So since D is equal to S, we find that D equals 35, U equals to minus 35, V equals to 55, and then just put them inside the lens equation and you will get that F is equal to 21.4 centimeters approximately. Now thank you very much. I hope you have enjoyed the lecture, and thank you.